We are living in an age where the pace of change has outgrown our comfort. The world no longer moves in slow, predictable steps. It surges forward faster than our habits, quicker than our routines, and far beyond our excuses. And in this reality, there is a quiet but undeniable truth that shapes every success story and every forgotten name. You either commit to getting better or you accept the slow drift of being left behind. Most people believe that survival belongs to the strongest or the smartest. But strength fades and intelligence alone is never enough. What truly separates those who endure from those who disappear is not talent, luck, or timing. It is the willingness to evolve, the courage to improve, the discipline to grow even when it hurts, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one is applauding. We have been conditioned to celebrate comfort. We chase stability, familiarity, and ease as if they are signs of success. But comfort is deceptive. It wraps itself in the illusion of security while quietly stealing your momentum. It convinces you that good enough is an achievement, that consistency without progress is loyalty, and that staying the same is somehow safer than change. But the world does not reward those who remain the same. It only rewards those who become more. Every breakthrough you admire was born from discomfort. Every leader you respect chose growth over convenience. Every innovation that transformed an industry began with someone refusing to accept the status quo. And yet, many people wait. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect conditions, the perfect motivation. They wait as if time is on their side, but time is indifferent. It moves forward with or without your permission. Getting better is not a burst of enthusiasm. It is not a temporary surge of motivation sparked by a speech or a sudden wave of inspiration. Getting better is a lifestyle. It is a decision you make when no one is watching, when it would be easier to relax, when the couch calls louder than your ambition. It is a quiet commitment to become a little more than you were yesterday. The problem is not a lack of opportunity. The problem is a lack of intention. Too many people drift through their days reacting instead of directing, surviving instead of shaping. They wake up and let the world dictate who they will become, rather than deciding for themselves. They consume more than they create. They repeat more than they refine. And over time, that repetition without growth becomes their identity. Improvement is not about massive leaps every day. It is about small, deliberate steps taken consistently. It is in the decision to learn when ignorance feels easier. It is in the choice to practice when rest feels tempting. It is in the discipline to refine your craft when no one is promising immediate rewards. That is where progress lies. Not in grand gestures, but in quiet persistence. Those who get ahead understand one simple principle. They do not chase comfort. They chase competence. They do not fear failure. They fear stagnation. They recognize that every setback is not a signal to stop, but an invitation to sharpen, to adapt, to grow. While some people complain about how fast the world is changing, others are learning how to navigate it. While some resist new ideas, others are mastering them. While some blame circumstances, others are building solutions. And over time, the distance between them grows, not because one group was born superior, but because one group chose progress. Growth demands humility. It requires admitting that you don't know everything, that your current level is not your final destination, that your past success does not guarantee future relevance, and in that humility comes power, because the moment you accept that you can improve, you give yourself permission to expand. But here is what most people don't realize. Getting better is not just about skills. It is about mindset. It is about character. It is about who you become in the process. It shapes how you respond to pressure, how you treat others, how you handle uncertainty. Improvement refines not only what you do, but who you are. Stagnation often feels safe. Growth often feels risky. But safety without progress is an illusion. The world will not pause while you protect your comfort. Your industry will evolve, your competition will learn, your environment will shift, and if you do not evolve with it, you will wake up one day wondering when you became irrelevant. Every moment offers a choice to repeat what is familiar or to step into what is necessary, to stay where you are or to become who you could be. The difference between those who lead and those who follow is not intelligence but intentionality. Those who get better do not wait for perfect conditions. They create momentum from imperfect ones. They do not ask, "Is this easy?" They ask, "Is this worth becoming better for?" They align their actions with their future, not their comfort, and the quiet truth is this: the biggest threat to your success is not failure. It is complacency. Failure teaches, discomfort strengthens, resistance refines, but complacency dulls ambition and numbs urgency. It convinces you that where you are is acceptable, that tomorrow will somehow reward today's hesitation. Progress does not happen by accident, it happens by decision. It happens when you choose discipline over distraction, learning over laziness, growth over gratification. It is not glamorous, it is not always visible, but it is powerful. Becoming better means looking in the mirror and asking hard questions. Am I growing or just surviving? Am I building or just maintaining? Am I improving or just repeating? And those answers are not for anyone else. They are for you, because the future of your life will be shaped by the honesty of those answers. You don't get left behind all at once. It happens slowly. A postponed effort here, a delayed decision there. A habit ignored, a skill neglected, a comfort chosen over challenge, and then one day you realize the gap is too wide, the pace too fast, the distance too great. And you wonder how it happened. It happened when you stopped choosing better. The demand of the future is not perfection. It is progress, it is evolution, it is effort. The world does not care how hard yesterday was. It only asks what you are willing to improve today. Those who succeed are not extraordinary. They are intentional. They understand that growth requires consistency, not convenience. That improvement is earned daily, not gifted occasionally. They respect the process, even when the results are not immediate. And so the question is not whether you have potential, you do. The question is whether you will honor it or waste it, whether you will stretch into it or shrink from it, whether you will rise into the discomfort of growth or hide in the familiarity of comfort. Because the line between success and obscurity is not drawn by luck, it is drawn by habits, by choices, by the quiet decisions you make when no one is clapping. Getting better is not dramatic, it is deliberate. It is waking up and choosing again. It is committing to improvement when the excitement fades. It is staying aligned when the novelty disappears. It is becoming disciplined when motivation no longer shows up, and that is why so few make it, not because they couldn't, but because they wouldn't. So ask yourself not what you want today, but who you must become tomorrow. Ask yourself if the version of you right now is strong enough, skilled enough, and prepared enough for the future you claim to desire. Because ambition without evolution is just imagination. This is not about pressure, this is about purpose. This is not about fear, this is about responsibility. You owe it to your future self to grow, to stretch, to refine, to become more capable than you were yesterday, because the world belongs to those who adapt. To those who learn, to those who improve even when it's hard, and the others, they don't fail suddenly. They simply fade. They become observers of a world that once invited them to evolve. So choose growth. Choose discipline. Choose progress even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. Because in a world that never stops moving forward, standing still is the same as falling behind. And the only real decision you have to make is this: will you rise to meet the future, or will you let the future leave you behind? The world is not waiting for you to feel ready. It is not slowing down so you can gather courage. It is not pausing to give you time to decide when growth feels convenient. Every day, silently and relentlessly, it continues moving forward. Systems evolve, standards rise, expectations expand. And in the midst of that movement, A quiet question echoes beneath every life, every career, every ambition. Will you rise to meet the momentum, or will you cling to what once felt safe? The uncomfortable reality is this: standing still is no longer a neutral decision. In a world that accelerates, stillness is regression. What used to be acceptable becomes insufficient. What once earned applause becomes ordinary, and what you mastered yesterday may not even meet the minimum standard tomorrow. The only currency that retains its value is growth, yet most people are not resistant to growth, they are simply attached to certainty. They want progress without discomfort, upgrades without effort, transformation without challenge. They want the results of evolution without the process of becoming. But growth does not operate on those terms. It demands participation. It asks for consistency. It requires humility and discipline long before it offers visible reward. The difference between those who thrive and those who struggle is not talent. It is decision. It is the moment someone chooses to treat improvement as a responsibility rather than a possibility. It is the realization that waiting to feel ready is a luxury the future does not grant, that readiness is not a prerequisite for progress. Action is. The great illusion of modern life is that comfort equals success, that stability equals achievement, that routines equal reliability, but comfort without challenge becomes stagnation. Stability without evolution becomes fragility. Routine without refinement becomes repetition with no direction, and slowly, almost invisibly, potential begins to wither. Growth is not dramatic, it rarely announces itself, it is quiet, methodical, persistent. It lives in the moments where you choose effort over ease, learning over laziness, intention over impulse. It hides in the decisions to read when distraction calls, to practice when procrastination whispers, to reflect when avoidance feels simpler. Most people look for motivation. Those who succeed build habits. They understand that motivation is fleeting, but discipline is reliable. That feelings change, but systems sustain. They don't rely on emotional readiness to determine action. They rely on commitment, they rely on consistency, they rely on discipline when inspiration fails to show up. And here is the paradox that many overlook. The more you avoid discomfort, the more uncomfortable the future becomes. The more you delay growth, the harder progress feels later. The more you cling to familiarity, the more foreign change appears when it finally becomes unavoidable. Resistance does not stop transformation, it simply makes it more painful. The people who excel are not fearless. They are faithful to the process, they are loyal to improvement. They have made peace with discomfort and turned it into a companion instead of an enemy. They know that challenge is not a punishment, it is a signal that growth is happening. Every time you choose to stay the same, the world gets a little further ahead. Every time you avoid learning, someone else is mastering. Every time you hesitate, someone else commits. And the distance is created not by talent, but by time invested differently. There is a subtle danger in early success. It can convince you that you have arrived, that your current level is permanent proof of competence. That the effort that brought you here is no longer required, but success is not a destination, it is a responsibility. A responsibility to rise again, to refine again, to challenge yourself even when applause fades. The future does not reward nostalgia. It does not care how impressive your past was. It only measures relevance in the present, and relevance is maintained not by what you achieved, but by how willing you are to evolve. Improvement begins with honesty, with the courage to admit that more is possible, that better exists. That current is not final. Without that honesty, growth becomes impossible, because you cannot refine what you refuse to acknowledge needs refinement. But honesty alone is not enough. It must be followed by action, by the quiet resolve to practice, to adapt, to adjust. To fail and improve, to stumble and rise, to begin again even when pride resists. The people who move forward do not romanticize progress. They respect it. They understand that growth often feels mundane, repetitive, even boring, but they also understand that mastery is built in those moments. That greatness is not born in bursts of brilliance, but in consistent effort. There is something powerful about choosing to get better even when no one is watching, when applause is absent, when recognition is nowhere in sight, because in those silent hours your character is being shaped. Your discipline is being forged, your future is being written. Stagnation rarely announces itself. It feels harmless. Comfortable, familiar, it disguises itself as rest, as patience, as contentment, but over time it dulls ambition. It weakens resilience. It slowly convinces you that reaching higher is unnecessary, until one day the gap between who you are and who you could have been becomes painfully obvious. Growth is not about comparison. It is not about outperforming others. It is about outgrowing your former self. Become stronger than you were, sharper than you were, more intentional than you were. It is personal. It is internal. It is relentless. You do not rise by chance. You rise by choice, by choosing the difficult conversation, by choosing the early morning, by choosing the practice when quitting feels easier, by choosing to evolve when remaining unchanged feels familiar. The world does not remember those who waited. It remembers those who acted, those who stepped forward while others hesitated, those who took responsibility for their trajectory instead of blaming circumstances for stagnation. Progress is not loud. It is disciplined repetition. It is self-respect in action. It is the courage to grow even when growth feels lonely, inconvenient, or misunderstood. And the truth that few want to acknowledge is this: you will be replaced if you refuse to adapt. The world does not reject you out of cruelty. It simply advances without you, and relevance is not preserved through entitlement. It is preserved through effort. The most dangerous phrase is "I'll do it later," because later becomes comfortable, comfortable becomes permanent. Permanent becomes regret, and regret becomes a silent reminder of what could have been. You are not competing with people. You are competing with time, with opportunity, with your own potential, and potential does not beg. It waits, but it does not wait forever. Every great transformation starts with a small decision, a choice to learn something new, to break an old habit, to commit to a higher standard. That choice, repeated daily, becomes identity. And identity shapes destiny. Growth is not pressure, it is respect. Respect for who you could be, respect for the future you claim to desire. Respect for the gift of possibility that comes with being alive. So look forward, not with fear, but with responsibility. Not with doubt, but with intention. Understand that the path will not always feel comfortable, but it will always shape you. You are not designed to remain static. You were built for progress, for evolution, for refinement. And every moment presents the same quiet invitation: become more or remain as you are. The world will continue to move. That is not negotiable. The only choice you have is how you respond to its movement. Will you evolve or excuse? Will you progress or postpone? Will you rise or retreat? This is not about being perfect. It is about becoming better. And becoming better is not optional for those who wish to remain relevant, impactful, and fulfilled. Because the future will not remember your intentions, it will remember your actions. It will not applaud your comfort. It will reward your courage, and in the end, the most important question will not be how far the world moved, but how far you chose to move with it. So choose growth, choose progress, choose evolution, not because it is easy, but because standing still is no longer safe. Get better again and again and again, because in a world that never stops improving, those who refuse to grow are not being punished. They are simply being passed by, and the future belongs to those who choose to become more than they were yesterday. The world has always rewarded those who move forward, but today it no longer forgives those who hesitate. We live in a time where comfort is advertised as success, where ease is mistaken for achievement, and where familiarity feels safer than growth. Yet beneath all of it lies a truth that cannot be softened, ignored, or negotiated. If you are not getting better, you are falling behind. This is not about pressure, it is about awareness, awareness that life is not static, that progress is constant, that every system, every industry, every skill, every expectation is evolving, and while the world evolves, you are being asked a question every single day: will you evolve too? Most people do not consciously choose to stay the same, they simply drift, they get caught in routine, in habit, in the comfort of what they already know. They perform, repeat, function, survive, and slowly, without realizing it, they stop growing. The tragedy is not that they failed. The tragedy is that they never tried to become more. Growth does not announce itself with fireworks. It often begins with discomfort, with uncertainty, with the uneasy feeling of not being as good as you want to be. But that discomfort is not your enemy, it is your signal. It tells you that you are standing at the edge of your current limits, and that something greater exists beyond them. The problem is that many people interpret that discomfort as a sign to stop, to retreat, to remain where it feels familiar. But those who truly move forward understand something different. Discomfort is not a warning, it is an invitation. It is the doorway to improvement. The illusion of safety is seductive. It whispers that if today feels stable, tomorrow will too. It convinces you that if things are not broken, they do not need fixing. But stability without growth is decay in slow motion. The world never stays the same for long, and while you protect your comfort, it quietly upgrades around you. Growth demands honesty, brutal, uncomfortable honesty, the kind that makes you look at your habits, your mindset, your discipline, your excuses, and admit that they may not be enough. Not enough for the future you claim to want, not enough for the responsibility you carry, not enough for the potential you possess. Most people wait for motivation, they wait for clarity, they wait for confidence, but those who get better understand that clarity is created through action, not before it. Confidence is built through repetition, not contemplation. Motivation is earned through momentum, not wished into existence. Improvement is not dramatic, it is not glamorous, it is the quiet choice to refine instead of relax, to stretch instead of settle, to challenge instead of coast. It is the discipline to pursue progress even when no one is noticing and no applause is promised. And that is where the separation begins, because while some people only work when they feel inspired, others work because they have committed to growth. While some stop when the excitement fades, others continue because they understand that mastery lives beyond enthusiasm. The world respects those who show up consistently, not occasionally, those who invest effort when it is boring, difficult, or inconvenient. Those who understand that progress is cumulative and that every small improvement compounds into something extraordinary over time. It is easy to applaud the finished masterpiece. It is harder to respect the thousands of quiet hours that created it. But those hours are where greatness is born, in repetition, in correction, in patience, in persistence. Those who get left behind are not always weak. Often they are simply comfortable. They settle for acceptable. They convince themselves that what they know is enough, that what they do is sufficient, that what they have achieved is permanent. And that comfort becomes their ceiling, but the future does not care what you did yesterday. It does not care how successful you once were. It does not care how talented you have proven to be. It only asks one thing: are you still growing? Every day, someone with less talent but more discipline is moving past someone with more ability but less commitment. Every day, someone willing to learn surpasses someone who refuses to change. Every day, someone practicing quietly overtakes someone resting loudly on past achievements. Progress is not built on ego. It is built on humility, the willingness to admit that you are not finished, that your best can be better, that your current level is not your final form, and in that acceptance, real transformation begins. Becoming better requires leaving behind versions of yourself that once felt familiar, old habits, old excuses, old limitations. It requires releasing the comfort of what you know for the uncertainty of what you could become. And that uncertainty is where growth exists. The danger of stagnation is that it feels gentle. It feels like peace. It feels like contentment, but true contentment is not the absence of growth, it is alignment with progress. It is the satisfaction of knowing you are becoming, not just remaining. Time does not reward hesitation. It respects effort. It respects commitment. It respects those who choose to improve even when improvement feels slow. Because slow progress is still progress, but standing still is deterioration. The people who succeed are not immune to doubt. They feel it, they experience it, they wrestle with it, but they do not let it dictate their decisions. They choose action over fear. They choose discipline over emotion. They choose growth over convenience. And growth reshapes everything. It sharpens your perception. It strengthens your character. It expands your capacity. It elevates your standards. You not only become more capable, you become more aware, more focused, more intentional. What you tolerate becomes your standard, and your standards determine your future. If you tolerate mediocrity, mediocrity becomes your identity. If you tolerate stagnation, stagnation defines your trajectory, but when you raise your standards, you raise your life. Every moment you delay improvement, improvement becomes more difficult. The skills you avoid now become weaknesses later. The habits you ignore now become obstacles tomorrow. The growth you postpone today becomes the regret you carry in the future. But there is power in the present, power in this moment, because no matter how far behind you feel, progress begins the same way for everyone. With one decision, one step, one action, chosen intentionally. You do not need perfection to begin. You do not need certainty. You do not need approval. You only need the courage to start and the discipline to continue. The world does not move aside for those who are comfortable. It moves forward for those who are committed. Those who refuse to accept stagnation as normal. Those who understand that becoming better is not a luxury, but a responsibility. You owe it to your future self to grow, to refine, to stretch, to evolve, not for applause, not for validation, but because your potential deserves expression, not neglect. True failure is not falling, it is refusing to rise. True weakness is not struggle, it is surrender to stagnation. True loss is not difficulty, it is wasted potential. So ask yourself not what is easy, but what is necessary. Not what feels good, but what moves you forward. Not who you have been, but who you are becoming, because your life is not defined by intentions, it is defined by evolution. It is shaped by the small choices you repeat, the habits you maintain, the discipline you honor, and every day the world will keep offering you the same silent choice. Improve or remain, grow or rest, evolve or repeat. Each choice shapes your future. Each decision builds your legacy. Each moment either moves you forward or leaves you where you are as the world passes by. So choose growth. Choose discomfort. Choose progress. Choose to become more than yesterday, more than last week, more than last year. Not because it is easy, but because remaining the same is no longer safe. Because in a world that rewards evolution, those who refuse to change do not fail loudly. They simply become invisible, and the future will not ask how comfortable you were. It will only reveal how far you were willing to go. The world does not pause for comfort. It does not negotiate with hesitation. It does not slow its pace to accommodate those who are unsure. Every day, it advances with quiet determination, reshaping expectations, redefining standards, and silently challenging everyone within it to rise or be replaced. And in that relentless forward motion lies a simple truth that decides growth or decline, relevance or obscurity, progress or regret. You must become better, or you will slowly disappear into yesterday. This is not a statement meant to intimidate. It is a reality meant to awaken, because life is not a finished product, it is a process of becoming. And every single moment either contributes to that becoming or quietly erodes it. Most people do not fail because they lack talent. They fail because they stop evolving, they reach a level of comfort and mistake it for completion. They interpret temporary success as permanent security. They allow routine to replace refinement, and slowly ambition fades into maintenance, and maintenance becomes stagnation. Growth by its very nature is uncomfortable. It stretches you beyond what you currently understand. It challenges your identity, reshapes your self-perception, and demands that you release familiar versions of yourself. That release feels like loss, but it is actually expansion. Yet many resist it because comfort feels safe and growth feels uncertain. But safety without progress is not protection. It is a slow decline disguised as stability. The moment you stop learning, stop refining, stop improving, the world continues without you. And the gap between who you are and who you need to become grows wider with every passing day. People often believe they will change when the timing feels right. When motivation arrives, when circumstances align, when clarity appears, but clarity is not found before action. It is revealed through it. Motivation is not a requirement for progress. It is a result of momentum. And momentum is built by discipline long before inspiration shows up. The difference between those who evolve and those who remain the same is not determination in the loud moments. It is consistency in the quiet ones. It is the willingness to pursue progress when no one is applauding, when no recognition is promised, when the results feel slow and invisible. The world admires the victory, but rarely witnesses the process. It sees the achievement, but not the repetition. It applauds the success, but not the discipline, yet it is in the unseen effort that greatness is forged. In the daily choice to improve when comfort would be easier, the illusion of arrival is dangerous. The belief that once you reach a milestone, the work is over. That once you achieve a goal, growth can pause, but success is not a resting place. It is an invitation to rise to a higher standard, to deepen your commitment, to sharpen your edge. The future does not reward people for who they used to be. It rewards them for who they continue to become. Past achievements do not guarantee future relevance. They only highlight the standard you must now exceed. There is a quiet discipline in growth that few celebrate, but all successful people respect. It lives in the decision to read when entertainment is easier, to practice when rest feels appealing, to reflect when distraction feels more comfortable. It thrives in the moments where you choose effort over ease. Those who improve understand that progress is not dramatic. It is methodical, incremental, relentless. It is the slow refinement of habits, the continuous sharpening of skills, the deliberate strengthening of mindset. And over time, those small adjustments create massive transformation, but stagnation creeps in quietly. It arrives disguised as contentment, as patience, as good enough. It does not announce itself, it soothes. It comforts, it assures you that you deserve rest, and rest is necessary, but rest without intention becomes dependency. And dependency becomes decay. Time moves forward whether you do or not, and the world reshapes around those who keep pace with it. While some people cling to what worked before, others are creating what works next, and the world moves toward those who are preparing for tomorrow, not those clinging to yesterday. Growth requires humility, the willingness to admit that you do not know everything, that your current level is not sufficient for your future vision, that improvement is always possible, that progress is always necessary. Without humility, truth becomes unbearable and improvement becomes impossible. To get better is not simply to gain more knowledge, it is to become more intentional, more disciplined, more self-aware, more responsible. It is to take ownership of your development rather than outsourcing it to circumstances. There is a silent power in choosing growth daily, even when no one notices, even when results are slow, even when motivation fades, because what you repeat becomes who you are, and who you are determines what you attract, what you achieve, and what you become. The world will not slow because you feel tired. It will not lower standards because you feel overwhelmed. It will not pause because you need more time. The only variable you truly control is your effort and your willingness to grow. You are not competing with others, you are competing with who you were yesterday. You are racing against your own comfort, your own excuses, your own hesitation. And every time you overcome them, even slightly, you widen the gap between stagnation and progress. Growth does not remove fear. It teaches you to move through it. It does not eliminate doubt. It teaches you to act in spite of it. It does not guarantee ease. It builds resilience through challenge. Those who consistently get better stop asking if they feel ready and start asking if the action aligns with who they want to become. They understand that readiness is not a feeling, it is a muscle strengthened through repetition. You do not become extraordinary by accident. You become extraordinary by intention, by honoring discipline over distraction, by committing to progress over pleasure. By choosing growth when comfort feels tempting. The biggest threat to potential is not failure, it is complacency. Failure teaches you where to grow. Complacency convinces you there is nothing left to learn, and once learning ends, relevance declines. The world respects those who evolve, those who adapt, those who remain curious, those who see change not as a threat, but as an opportunity to expand. Because progress belongs to those who prepare for it, every delay in improvement compounds into future difficulty. Every excuse strengthens resistance. Every moment of avoidance becomes a habit, and habits shape destiny. But progress is always possible, no matter how far behind you feel, no matter how late you think it is, no matter how much time you believe you've wasted. Growth begins the moment you decide to move. There is power in that decision. Power in choosing to try again, to refine again, to commit again, to become again, even when you are tired. Even when you are discouraged, even when doubt whispers that it is too late. It is not about being flawless. It is about being forward. It is not about perfection. It is about direction, and direction, chosen consistently, reshapes everything. Every day you wake up, you are given the same quiet choice: improve or repeat, evolve or remain, progress or stagnate. And though the world may not announce the consequences immediately, time will reveal them unmistakably. Those who advance are not always more gifted, they are more committed, more disciplined, more aware. More intentional. They understand that growth is not optional for relevance, it is essential, and so the question remains not what is comfortable, but what is necessary. Not what feels easy, but what builds strength. Not who you have been, but who you are becoming, because comfort fades. Trends change, skills expire, but the habit of improvement sustains everything. It protects your future. It elevates your potential. It secures your place in a world that never stops moving. So choose to become better. Not once, not occasionally, but consistently, deliberately, relentlessly, because the world will not remember how settled you felt. It will remember how much you grew, and growth is the only answer to a future that refuses to wait. Get better or get left behind. It sounds harsh. It sounds unforgiving. But the truth is rarely gentle, and progress has never been polite. The world does not slow down because you are tired. It does not adjust its pace because you are uncertain. It does not wait for you to feel ready. It moves forward relentlessly, and every second you hesitate, it creates distance between who you are and who you must become. We like to believe that standing still is safe, that if we just hold on, stay where we are, keep doing what we've always done, everything will somehow remain stable. But stability is an illusion. There is no such thing as maintenance mode in life. There is only growth or decay. Advancement or decline, momentum or erosion, and the tragedy is not that people fail. The tragedy is that they settle. They convince themselves that this is good enough, that this is as far as they can go, that comfort is a reward instead of a warning. They build routines that protect their fears instead of systems that challenge their limits. They repeat yesterday and call it consistency, not realizing that repetition without evolution is simply stagnation with rhythm. The people who move ahead are not necessarily the smartest, not always the most talented, not even the most confident. They are the ones who decided that improvement is not negotiable, that growth is not seasonal, that progress is not something you visit when life feels right, but something you commit to when life feels heavy. They understand that getting better doesn't begin with a dramatic moment. It begins with a quiet choice. A choice to wake up and do the uncomfortable thing, to read when it would be easier to scroll, to practice when it would be easier to rest, to challenge their own thinking when it would be easier to blame the world. Growth is rarely glamorous. It is repetitive, it is slow, it is frustrating, and that is precisely why it works. Because most people quit when the excitement fades. Most people retreat when the results don't show immediately. Most people interpret resistance as a stop sign rather than the doorway to transformation. But those who rise see resistance differently. They see it as evidence that they are stepping into new territory, that they are stretching, that they are becoming. When you choose to get better, you are choosing a path that will test you. You will question yourself, you will feel inadequate, you will feel like progress is invisible. But you will also discover something powerful. You are far more capable than the voice of doubt led you to believe. Every time you push a little harder, stay a little longer, learn a little more, you build a version of yourself that your future will be grateful for. And every time you avoid growth, you leave your future self to deal with the consequences of your present comfort. Because the future does not care about your excuses, it only reflects your habits. The world rewards those who evolve, those who refuse to stay frozen in who they once were, those who outgrow their old identities and step into new levels of awareness, those who accept that yesterday's success is not a lifelong guarantee but a temporary milestone. History does not remember those who stayed comfortable. It remembers those who dared to improve when it was inconvenient. It remembers the ones who chose discipline over distraction, clarity over noise, purpose over pleasure. And this is not about perfection. Perfection is immobile. Perfection is fragile. The pursuit of perfection often paralyzes. Getting better is different. Getting better is human. It allows room for mistakes. It welcomes learning. It celebrates effort as much as result. Getting better means asking yourself difficult questions. Am I growing or just surviving? Am I learning or just repeating? Am I intentional or just reactive? And the moment you start answering those questions honestly, something shifts. You stop living on autopilot. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop waiting for permission. You begin to take ownership of your direction. That is where leadership begins, not in titles or authority, but in responsibility. Responsibility for your thinking, for your actions, for your standards, for the energy you bring into every room, every conversation, every moment. Because becoming better is not just about personal gain, it elevates everyone around you. When you improve, you raise the bar. When you grow, you expand what is possible for others. When you evolve, you create a ripple of progress that extends far beyond you. And the opposite is also true. When you choose stagnation, you slow not only yourself, but the environment you inhabit. You normalize mediocrity. You lower expectations. You contribute to a culture that celebrates ease instead of excellence. Progress does not come from comfort zones. Comfort zones are beautifully decorated prisons where potential slowly suffocates. Growth happens on the edge of discomfort, in the space where effort meets uncertainty, where courage meets resistance, where discipline replaces desire. And discipline is the quiet hero of every success story, not the dramatic moments, not the viral highlights, not the sudden applause. Discipline is the unseen force that builds what the world eventually admires. Discipline is choosing to continue when motivation disappears. It is choosing to refine when recognition is absent. It is choosing to improve even when nobody notices. The world may not celebrate your effort today, but it will feel the impact tomorrow. And tomorrow belongs to those who prepared for it when it was still invisible. Getting better is a philosophy, a way of life, a refusal to allow complacency to define your story. It is a declaration that you will not be a passive observer in your own journey. It is the decision to say, I am not done becoming, because the moment you believe you have arrived is the moment growth stops. And when growth stops, relevance fades. When relevance fades, opportunity moves elsewhere, and it moves quickly. Technology evolves, markets shift, skills expire, expectations rise. The concept of good enough has a short lifespan in a world that constantly reinvents itself. So the question is not whether the world will change, it will. The only question is whether you will change with it. Will you learn the new skill before it becomes necessary? Will you strengthen your mindset before life challenges you? Will you refine your character before responsibility demands it? Or will you wait until pressure forces you to evolve? Those who lead do not wait for urgency. They prepare in advance. They understand that the price of growth is paid in the present for results that appear in the future. And they pay it willingly because they understand the cost of not paying it is far greater, because getting left behind does not happen overnight. It is gradual, it is quiet, it happens one ignored opportunity at a time, one postponed decision at a time, one I'll start tomorrow at a time. Until one day you look around and realize the world has moved on without you. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can decide now that improvement is your standard, that progress is your promise, that your current limitations are merely temporary checkpoints on a longer journey. You can decide that your legacy will not be dictated by comfort, but by courage, not by what was easy, but by what was necessary. You can decide that each day will be an intentional step forward, even if that step is small, because small steps compound. Small improvements accumulate, small wins transform into extraordinary outcomes, and the only requirement is consistency. Not brilliance, not perfection, consistency, consistency in learning, consistency in effort, consistency in mindset, consistency in growth, because the world doesn't reward potential, it rewards progress, and progress begins with a choice. The choice to rise when you would rather rest, the choice to focus when you would rather escape, the choice to evolve when you would rather remain the same. So choose growth over familiarity, choose discipline over distraction, choose purpose over comfort. Because time will keep moving, the world will keep advancing, opportunities will keep shifting, and when the future arrives, it will ask only one question of you. Did you get better, or did you get left behind? The answer is being written right now, in your habits, in your mindset, in your daily decisions, so write it wisely. Get better every day, in every way, without excuse, and let the world struggle to keep up with the person you are becoming.